A very good afternoon to everybody, and thanks for clicking on to today's not European Outlook. No, I'm talking rubbish. That is a very good start. The Global Weather Report live here from Mark Fogan Weather HQ in Northern Scotland. How is everybody doing on this Sunday afternoon? I'd be curious to know. Be sure to hit that like button, and it lets myself and YouTube know that you're enjoying the content here on the channel. A very warm welcome to people who maybe are new to the channel. I happen to notice quite a nice rise in subscribers in recent times, and a massive thank you to everybody for doing that. It's very, very greatly appreciated. So let me just kind of get my Burns right, and then we will crack on. Just trying to pull up the live chat. For some reason it's not allowing me to do that. I don't know why that is the case, but just bear with anyway. So let me just see. So we've got currently 9 concurrent viewers at the moment here, yeah, be sure to hit that like button. Callum Snowball is tuning in. Good afternoon to Callum. Good afternoon, Mark. The haze from the Canadian wildfire smoke has reduced the energy from the sun reaching the surface. Yeah, I've actually noticed even here you can see the kind of dirty, kind of hazy sky that is currently over our airspace. We've actually got some satellite imagery to look at regarding that. It's very interesting, the level of Canadian wildfire smoke that is in our atmosphere at the moment. That has been obviously ongoing for the past several days. It's been riding the jet stream. Obviously, the jet has been transporting that dusty, smoky air across the Atlantic, and has been causing. I don't know so much about actual, breathing it in. I don't know if it's it's reaching the surface or anything, but nevertheless, it's interesting to see the effects that is having on our atmosphere. Good afternoon to Paul James. I hope you're well, my friend. Thank you very much for moderating today's stream. We've also got Paul Farwell tuning in. Good afternoon, Mark. Windy with cloud in Swindon, I think it is. Is that right? I'm assuming that's a typo. Yeah, he's just retracted that message. I think that's a typo. I think it's Swindon that he is in, Paul. So, yes, how is everybody doing? Welcome to the 144th edition of the Global Weather Report Live. We're going to be talking about cold in Australia. We're going to get some significant snow. I think it's the most significant start to a snow season in the alpine resorts down in the southeast of Australia compared to recent times anyway. So it's good to see the snow season kicking off pretty strong down under. We'll obviously look at the past first full week of June meteorological summer, and we also have got the warmth building through the course of this week that will have a significant impact on our weather as we move towards Wednesday onwards here. So good afternoon to David Vogan down in Kirkintilloch. Hope you are keeping well. Hello, Mark from Kirkintilloch. It's been a strange day here weather-wise. Cold morning. Came out of church and car showing 20. Then this afternoon 14 with light showers. Yeah, obviously when you do have some relatively dry air in place, that heats and cools quite quickly, depending on whether it's the overnight period or whether it's the afternoon. Obviously, we've got pretty much the strongest sun at this time of the year as well. So, we're going to see a big rise in temperature. I think parts of Aberdeenshire, for example, has seen frost in recent nights, temperatures into the -1, -2 range, I think, according to some weather stations. Private network, Braemar, Ballater, Deeside and Donside Weather has a terrific network of weather stations, and some of Chris's stations have been reading sub-freezing. I think Highland Weather Network as well has been registering some frosty nights as well. Not really completely uncommon, really, for even the summertime to see some of these kind of rural highland glens record sub-freezing temperatures. You can get that year-round pretty much. So, yeah, certainly some interesting weather coming up. We've been talking about heat and storms across parts of Europe. We've also been seeing that across parts of England in recent times as well, thanks to areas of low pressure moving in off the Atlantic. The man himself is in. Thanks for clicking on, Chris. Braemar, Ballater, D-side, Dodside weather. Morning. Sorry, it's afternoon, Chris. I think that's a slight typo as well. Sorry I'm late. Mrs. went mental over baby potatoes, was on the list, and prioritised Coke. So, yep, you need to get it right, Chris, or we'll get into trouble by our wives if we don't get the right things. I was getting a couple of bits and pieces out of Lidl's last night. We normally do our shopping actually on a Saturday, but basically we're going to get the groceries tomorrow. But I did have to pick up a few necessities for yesterday and for today. I'm going to have some nice Balmoral chicken for dinner this evening. Let me know in the comments, is folks going to have a nice roast dinner? We usually have a roast dinner on a Sunday, but we're going to mix it up a little bit and have some Balmoral chicken for this evening's dinner. So you can let me know in the comments section below what you're going to have for your Sunday meal. We've got, so let me just see here, Cargarth, -2 Saturday, Braemar, -1 last night. So yeah, sub-freezing temperatures in rural eastern Scotland, particularly the rural Inverness, Aberdeenshire, Murray. We're seeing with shelter anyway, temperatures dropping quite a bit these nights. But we are going to see the temperatures warming up as we progress through the course of the week. Sorry, just enjoying my coffee here as well. So we will have a look at, first and foremost, the situation that we've got in the East Pacific. We've got Disturbance 3 that is that has the small potential of development. We've got 35 mile per hour sustained winds, central pressure at 1,001 millibars. But we've also got Barbara now developed. This is the second system of the East Pacific season that began back on the 15th of May. And winds are currently at 60 miles per hour with a pressure at 996 millibars here. That will eventually, it's actually expected to become a hurricane. So this would be the first hurricane within the Northern Hemisphere, I think, of the 2025 season. As you can see here, the system is expected to move northwest and then drift westwards here and then move into cooler waters and more hostile atmosphere. So therefore we are going to see this system fall apart essentially. It looks as if David is having a takeaway this evening, weekly treat, he says. I think there's maybe one or two nights that he enjoys a little takeaway, which is fair dues. I do like a takeaway myself, I must admit. So let me just see here if there's anybody else tuning in. So and then we will crack on. We've got the 16 concurrent viewers at the moment. Be sure to hit that like button. It certainly does help with the algorithm of the channel. I do greatly appreciate each and everybody's support. And if you haven't already done so, hit that subscribe button as well. Absolutely free content, 7 days a week. Tropical Outlook every Saturday, Monday to Friday, the European Outlook, looking at the short, medium and long range weather. And obviously, we've got the live streams each and every Sunday. It's good to interact with everybody that tunes in, answer a few questions, give shout outs, etc., etc. And David saying no. So yes, let me just see here. So yeah, we've spoken about the tropical storm named Barbara in the East Pacific. It looks as if the Atlantic remains quiet at the moment. There is a system that may try to develop over the far west Caribbean in the next 7 to 10 days. We do have an MJO that is moving into the Central America region around about the middle portions of the month. So that's going to increase the chance of seeing some development within the Atlantic Basin. But according to NHC at the moment, tropical cyclone activity is not expected. Do check out the tropical outlook from yesterday if you haven't already done so. I talk about the global picture within the tropics. Excuse me. I'll also talk about the Indian monsoon, which kind of faded a little bit in recent weeks, but it got off gangbusters back in the month of May, thanks to that. The MJO became more activated over the Indian Ocean, and that's kind of helped kickstart the 2025 southwest monsoon season. That kind of fell apart a little bit, but it looks as if it's going to start to reactivate once again as we move towards mid-month. MJO looks as if it's going to become a little bit more favourable for development. So check out the tropical outlook in yesterday's video. This is the temperature anomalies through the first full week of June, meteorological summer within the Northern Hemisphere. And again, remaining below average really anywhere from eastern Libya through Egypt. We've got that cool moving into the Middle East. Iran, Pakistan, India. Look at India, firmly below average to start the meteorological summer here. And then in the southwestern portions of China, we've got below average conditions here. So still that area of below average extending from eastern Libya all the way to southwestern China. Eastern portions of Australia, colder than average versus a central and western warmer than average Australia. It's been cold to start the summer off up in Alaska. Some places actually failing to get above freezing, believe it or not, in parts of Alaska in the last couple of weeks here. Again, cooler than average extending into the Yukon, Northwestern Territories, down in the northern portions of Alberta and Manitoba. We've got cooler than average across the central plain states of the United States. A little bit of a mix between warmer versus colder than average across the eastern half of the United States. South America, we've got that mixture as well. Parts of Colombia, Venezuela, and in the Peru is below average here. We've got a warmer than average across the majority of Brazil, with the exceptions of the Amazon River region. So the Amazon Basin, should I say, we've got around about the average. We've had some fairly heavy rainfall in this region in recent times. And then we've got obviously moving across to our own part of the world here in Europe. And you can see that it has been a cool start to summer across the UK as well as Ireland. Massive thank you to Braemar, Ballater, D-Side and Donside Weather. Thank you very much, my friend, for the kind donation. You're always very generous. And I just want to say thank you for that. That is very kind of you to do that. So yes, we have got below average across parts of southern Norway, but even extending into the north and west of France, we've got slightly cooler than average conditions to start off summer, and also Portugal, northwestern corner of Spain. I say starting off summer, obviously I'm talking about meteorological summer. Astronomical summer doesn't begin until the 21st of June, obviously. And I know there is people get a wee bit tetchy when it comes to the definition of summer. So obviously when I say summer, we're in summer at the moment, meteorologically speaking, of course. So that is Europe in terms of the temperature anomalies. We are going to see a big rise in temperature this week as we see areas of low pressure winding up but staying to the west of the UK and Ireland. That's critical. With high pressure to the east, low pressure to the west, we've got a southerly flow, and some of the models are indicating a very significant tongue of heat coming out of North Africa and reaching the British Isles here. Always warmest the further south you go over the UK, of course, but nevertheless, we are going to see warmth spread north across the entirety of the UK. You can see here quite a cool start to summer up in Iceland as well. I know there's a couple of folks that tune in from Iceland. That is greatly appreciated as well, showing their support of the channel. Up in Iceland and parts of the continent as well, we've got folks tuning in as well. Both professional folks as well as amateur folks. It's a real nice mixture of viewers and participants here on Mark Hogan Weather on YouTube. It is greatly appreciated, each and everybody's support. It is always nice to show that appreciation as well and mention it. I wanted to show you this here, very interesting visible satellite imagery covering, this is looking at the Americas. We've got the Pacific to the west. We've got the Atlantic, obviously, to the east. But look at the amount of Saharan dust that we've got over the Atlantic region, all the way to the Caribbean, the Gulf of Mexico, the southeastern corner of the United States. We've got a tremendous amount of Saharan dust. That is fairly typical at this early stage in summer as well, to have higher concentrations of Saharan dust. Eventually, as we move into the July, August, and particularly September, October, we'll see less in the way of Saharan dust. The intertropical convergence zone is further north. We've got much more in the way of tropical waves coming off Africa, some of which will develop into storms and hurricanes. But this time of the year, water temperatures tend to be a little bit too cool, generally below that 27 Celsius threshold for cyclogenesis and strengthening of tropical systems. But also we've got a hostile atmosphere. If you looked at the tropical outlook yesterday, talk about the strong wind shear that's crossing over the Atlantic at the moment. We've also got Saharan dust. So there's a lot of inhibiting factors at this stage in the season for any sort of development within the main development region, which is generally to the east of the Leeward Islands. But they usually homegrown stuff at this time of the year. Homegrown in terms of Caribbean and Gulf development. We've got frontal systems that still come off the North American continent. Sometimes that can spin up a little circulation, then become closed, warm core, and then we see development taking place. Also a Central American gyre, a kind of elongated area of low pressure that tends to develop due to conflicting winds and the geography of Central America. Then sometimes the little vortices can spin off that, move out into the very warm waters of the Caribbean, develop as well. So typically development at this early stage in the season tends to be over the Caribbean and the Gulf, maybe even off the southeastern United States as well, especially over the warm Gulf Stream. But you can see here the thick concentrations of Saharan dust. You can also see a little bit of Kármán vortices all over the Cape Verde Islands here. If you look at this closely, we must have a bit of a north to northeasterly flow through this island archipelago, and it's creating the Kármán vortices where you've got the clouds then bumping against the islands and kind of like water in a stream, and then boulders in that stream. The water obviously runs around those boulders. Same idea with the atmosphere, and when the moist northeasterly flow bumps against this island chain, basically the atmosphere runs around the islands, and it always creates some very fascinating imagery on visible satellite. So this is obviously a current view looking close up at the central and the eastern tropical Atlantic with the Cape Verde Islands over on the right hand side of the image. Wanted to also show you this, by the way. So this is another view of the North Atlantic. Again, you've actually got the clouds running kind of east-northeast, and underneath we've got clouds running in from the west. Again, very fascinating to see the atmosphere and the way it works. We've also got a strong blow-up of thunderstorms, by the way, just along the Central American coast here. We need to keep an eye on this here for some form of development. We've also got Barbara, you can see here just to the west of Mexico. That is Tropical Storm Barbara. We've got that other feature that is just to the west of it as well. Them two tropical features, by the way, may dance around each other, known as the Fujiwara effect, when you've got one circulation running around the other. Sometimes these two features can merge together to create one bigger system, or they just simply do not join forces. But they may do a Fujiwara within the far East Pacific. So we're keeping an eye on that. We're keeping an eye on the blow-up of convection. We've had some flooding across parts of Guatemala, Nicaragua in the last couple of days. We've got generally clear skies, northern Caribbean over Cuba, into the Gulf of Mexico. Again, that's Saharan dust kind of sucking the moisture out of the atmosphere. So you've got that. You've got, like I said, we've got northwesterly winds at around about the 200 millibar level. So you're kind of generally in the kind of 30 to 40,000 foot range. We've got clouds running kind of east-northeast but underneath that, lower level winds are coming in from the east, and you can actually see that quite nicely on visible satellite imagery. Looking at the UK, specifically in Europe, this is quite interesting. Look at the brown kind of dirty haze look running kind of in from a kind of west-northwest direction. That is the Canadian wildfire smoke, by the way, visible on satellite imagery currently. It actually was a bit more prominent a little bit earlier. It's hard to see because I'm in the conservatory, but I still think that's quite prominent. You can actually notably see the wildfire smoke as it's getting drawn in, courtesy of that area of low pressure. So let me just see here what else. So at the moment we've got 26 concurrent viewers. A very warm welcome if you're just joined in. If you've been on from the beginning, I do greatly appreciate you sticking around. So we've looked at, obviously, satellite imagery, visible satellite imagery, all the very interesting things that are going on at the moment here from a weather point of view. Let me see what else I can show. These are the current temperatures from a global point of view at the moment. So let me just see current temperatures. This is off weatherobs.com, and this is the global temperatures at the moment. So you can see here, obviously, the hottest areas of the planet, no surprise, over the Sahara, over the Arabian Peninsula as well. We've got temperatures into the low 40s quite widely from the interior of Senegal and the Gambia. In the parts of Mali as well, we've got the temperatures as high as 42 Celsius at the moment. And then further north, obviously, up towards the desert of Algeria, interior portions of Morocco as well. We're talking about temperatures high 30s and low 40s. Don't have much coverage over Libya, apart from the Mediterranean coast, where we've got a 29 Celsius currently in Tripoli. Then moving across to the east-northeast of Africa, we've got temperatures into the mid to high 30s and the low 40s across parts of Egypt. And then moving across the Red Sea, and we've got temperatures into the upper 30s and 40s in Jordan. So temperatures, big range in temperatures as well here, by the way. Right along the mid coast, we've got the mid 20s, so fairly comfortable. Probably feeling a little bit humid, I would imagine. But then once you get inland, temperatures very quickly rise into the upper 30s and low 40s. Temperatures actually, albeit they're still very hot, have been, as I showed you on the CDAS data, temperatures have actually been slightly below average to start meteorological summer in parts of the Middle East. So we do have temperatures that are on the rise across parts of Syria, Iraq, into Iran, where obviously it's been exceptionally hot through the spring, especially during the second half of spring. It had been, astonishingly hot across this region, with seeing temperatures into the 50s, believe it or not, in parts of Iraq, Kuwait, Iran, and then down into the UAE, Qatar. We've been generally upper 40s. But temperatures have, in the last week or so, certainly been pegged back a little bit. And I don't think there's any, I don't think there's any, what's the right word that I'm looking for? Basically, when we were warm and dry during much of May, we had exceptional heat across parts of the Middle East and in the west central portions of Asia. And I think it was all interconnected by this blocking setup that took place throughout the Northern Hemisphere. And now that we've seen the return of the westerlies, the jet stream, bringing much cooler weather conditions across Western Europe, we'd seen a decrease in temperature over Central Asia and into the Middle East, because the Manjulian oscillation moving eastwards kind of shook things up, created that ripple effect across the hemisphere and changed the overall pattern. We are going to start to see that pattern come back. I think higher pressure is going to build in during the second half of June across western areas of Europe. There will be back and forth in terms of rainfall and that, but generally speaking, it looks as if higher pressure and warmer than average temperatures is going to be the dominant force through the second half of June. We will look at that in a little second. And then obviously, talking about global temperatures, you're again talking about the 30s and 40s across parts of Pakistan and India. Like I said, we should start to see the monsoon coming back into play again. I think in the coming couple of weeks, I think we're going to start to see those southwesterly winds reignite and the thunderstorm activity become more widespread across South Asia. Braemar, Ballard, D-side and Donside weather saying saw some amazing footage of the loads of snow in New Zealand. Incredible. Yes, we'll look at that, Chris, if I can remember. And also, sorry, silly question. How can you tell the way that the clouds are moving? Would they like to know how you understand that? Certainly, if you look at the animation, Chris, you can actually see up close the movement of the clouds. Let's very quickly go back to that, and I'll try and show you. It's the animation that we're basically looking at. And you can see the movement. So if you look at this here, I know it might be a little bit difficult to see it. Probably easier if you're watching it on TV as opposed to your phone or whatnot. But you can see the movement. See, if you can see the wee kind of the cursor here, you can see the clouds moving in an east-northeasterly direction right here. But then underneath this layer of higher cloud, you can see the clouds moving in from an east to west motion. So that basically is telling me that you've got upper level winds coming in out of a west-southwest direction, and then you've got the lower level winds coming in from an east. That's the easterly trade winds down near the surface. So high up, this is essentially shear. So you've got an environment that tends to rip apart any kind of thunderstorm activity. This is good news if you don't want to see tropical systems. So very interesting to watch, and this is what forecasters look at in terms of the atmosphere, the real live pictures and how the clouds are moving. It tells you what wind direction you've got at different levels within the atmosphere, whether it be high level cloud, low level or mid level cloud. It's always very interesting to see because it tells you the overall environment as well, especially if you're talking about tropical weather systems trying to develop. Obviously, you've got models on one side of the coin, but on the other side, you have to look at the real-time weather, and that's where satellites come into play. A very interesting deep dive last Tuesday by Honor Criswick, talking about the satellites, a little bit about their history, and basically what satellites can tell us. Very interesting stuff, I must admit. So I certainly would encourage folks to check out the Met Office deep dive that was back last Tuesday. So a little shout out to the Met Office there. Massive thank you to Lindsay. Thank you very much for she's the number one fan here, and we've got a little dude here jumping up and down. So thank you very much for that, Lindsay. I appreciate that, and thank you to Lindsay as well for also moderating along with our very own Paul James. So that's hopefully, we've covered enough with regards to visible satellite imagery and whatnot. I think the dusty air that's moving in off the Atlantic associated with the wildfires. We talked about the cloud streets visible. Again, it tells you what way the wind's blowing when you've got the movement and the dispersion of the clouds around the Cape Verde archipelago. Fascinating stuff, I must admit. So let me just see here. This is the current lightning activity. Just bear with a second here. Thanks. My notes. What would I do without Lindsay? I don't know. So anyway, we've got this is the current lightning activity globally at the moment. You can see here quite a cluster. We've had a lot of severe weather across parts of the United States. It has been a very, very bad season across the central and eastern US with severe weather in 2025, it must be said. And we've still got a frontal boundary here across the southern tier. We've also got lightning activity, Western Caribbean, East Pacific, associated with the tropical activity that is ongoing here, as explained already. Then we've actually got quite a lot of lightning activity across parts of northern Algeria, which is interesting. Europe, Always at this time of year, lightning activity, and you can see that across parts of northern Poland into the southern Baltic Sea, parts of Czech Republic. Germany's picking up some lightning and moving eastwards into parts of western Ukraine, western Russia. We've got some thunderstorm clusters to speak about. Nothing at the moment across the Middle East, as is often the case at this time of year. You've got pretty much clear skies. If anything's in the air, it's usually dust. And in the eastern portions of China, through the Philippines as well, we've got some lively thunderstorms. The Mann-Julian oscillation is holding in this area. If we look at this chart right here, you can see the greens over the Philippines representing enhanced upward motion. So we've got the thunderstorms that are fairly typical at this time of year. We've got that little bit more of a kick thanks to the Mann-Julian oscillation being present overhead. So let me just quickly open the door because I'm starting to sweat, I must admit. So just bear with me a second, everybody. So hopefully that should help. It doesn't help as well when I'm sitting drinking a cup of coffee. So I think we've covered temperature anomalies for the first full week of June, meteorological summer. We've talked about the satellite imagery. Let me have a quick look at the ECMWF. This is the upper heights anomalies of the European model for the next 7 days. Monday the 9th through the 16th of June. You can see here higher pressure dominating the majority of Europe. You can see here even into week 2, we've got high pressure kind of focuses over the UK and Ireland. If you notice, Western Europe, the UK and Ireland, high pressure looks to be firmly in charge across the west of Europe here. We've got a trough over Western Russia, so that's going to bring cooler, more unsettled conditions in the eastern portion of the continent, while we've got the high. And that's often the case when you've got a block and high to the west, you've got a trough downstream to the east. So that is the period between the 16th and the 23rd of June. This is why I'm saying I think warmer and drier and more settled, hopefully through the second half of June compared to the first half. These cool and settled beginnings to June, by the way, are not as uncommon as you think. We've seen it last year, and we've seen it plenty of times in years going by. And Tryon Bruin put out a very interesting tweet back during the course of the week that there's quite a lot of summers that follow on, good summers may I add, that follow on from what was a cool, unsettled, disappointing start to June. That doesn't always necessarily reflect that the rest of the summer is going to be the same, cool and wet. We've got plenty of examples where the summers actually become pretty dry, pretty hot, and certainly it's interesting to see that high pressure is going to generally remain in control across Western Europe through the remainder of June. Certainly going by the ECMWF, there is other models out there that also show that we are going to see higher pressure dominate closer by during the second half of June. So yeah, I think I've explained that to Chris. Hopefully that's been quite easy to understand. Also, good afternoon to Frog's Legs Matthew. And have we got anybody else that I have forgotten about? We've got Benny Jones tuning in as well from Winchester, England. So good afternoon to yourself. Thanks for tuning in. And if you've been along on this little live stream this afternoon, and you haven't already done so, be sure to hit that like button. It doesn't cost you anything, but it certainly does help spread the word of the channel through the YouTube platform. So thank you very much for doing that. This is the current drought situation across Europe. You can still see firmly drier than average. Now this is as of the second 10-day period of May, and obviously it's not taking into consideration the rain that we've seen during that final week of May. So I think this map will be a little bit less aggressive in terms of dryness as we go through the next couple of weeks. I think this is going to update and it'll be a little bit less dry across the UK and Ireland. So I thought I would look at that. I've actually only looked at that today for the first time in a week or so, just to see the drought situation across Europe. This is the drought monitor across the US. You can see here that we're actually in fairly good stead across North Texas, the southern plain states. We've obviously got South Texas is pretty dry. Florida has been remarkably dry, but we are seeing more in the way of rainfall across parts of the far southeastern corner of the United States. That will certainly help with the rainfall deficit here. And then really the majority of the eastern seaboard is looking fairly decent. Central plain states, it looks as if we've got some dry areas, especially up into parts of western and northern Kansas, up into Nebraska, South Dakota, the northern portions of Minnesota and northern Wisconsin, into the far western side of the upper peninsula of Michigan. And it's a bit of a funny one here. You've got is that the Red River Valley? I think it is anyway. But you can see here there's a little area where there's no drought, but it's there's drought to the south, there's drought to the north. Again, it depends on thunderstorm activity, frontal systems, and whatnot. We've also got the dry conditions across parts of the northwest, northern portions of Idaho, much of Montana, much of Washington State, as well western portions of Oregon, then central and southern portions of California. We're increasing the drought area, especially around the desert southwest area. We've got some very significant drought here. Naturally dry part of the world, obviously, and hopefully we'll get the southwest monsoon going to help bring moisture into this region. That is how you get moisture into the southwestern United States at this time of the year, is when you've got moisture coming up. And hopefully Barbara can throw some of that moisture up into this region as well and bring some much needed rain here. So I've talked about the temperatures globally. Let me just see here. Across part of Indonesia and into Australia. Very cool conditions, especially down towards the southeast. Wet, windy, high elevation snowfall, and particularly low temperatures across parts of New South Wales and Victoria. Like I said, it's the best start to a snow season in 3 years in southeastern Australia. And let me just see here some of the events that have been taking place around the world over the last week or so. Big hail in parts of Romania, as can be seen here from Thomas Pukic, I think it is pronounced. Obviously, we've seen a lot of earthquake activity across the planet in recent times as well. We always do, but even more so it feels there's been an uptick. We've obviously seen Etna with Fuego in Guatemala has blown up in recent days as well. We've got Benny Jones saying, when do you think we can determine if the warm weather on the way will be wet and thundery, hot or clear blue skies, sunbathing conditions? I certainly think, Benny, that we're going to see a mixture this upcoming week. There will be more detail in the European Outlook tomorrow, so stay tuned for that. We will look at the upcoming week in a second, hopefully, if I can remember that, because I do have an awful habit of forgetting things here. Let me just see here what else I can, just in case I forget anything. So let's have a quick look. This is of Volcanic on Twitter. And you can see, again, the damage that was caused due to a 6.4 earthquake that happened in Chile in the last day or two. Look at this here, by the way. This is scary. This is in South Africa. Look at the kids getting thrown out of that. That is scary. And that happened in South Africa. Let me just here find whereabouts was that? It was in one location. Is it Krugersdorp? I think it is, or Dorf. Turned into a nightmare. So a school celebration in that part of South Africa turned into a nightmare when a sudden gust of wind sent a bouncy castle flying in the air. Children fell out mid-air. 2 boys were seriously injured, but are now recovering in hospital. So yeah, that was scary stuff, I must admit. Let me just see here what else. This is at volcano 6.4 earthquake. Sorry.
We know.
That's given me a chance to drink my coffee as well by playing that video. You like what I did there? Because it is starting to turn cold as well. Let me just see here what else. This was a tornado outbreak in northeastern China. This is from Eric Wang. Again, Twitter. So play through this here. So that is that. We've got Paul Farwell saying thunderstorms forecast for late next week. Yeah, that area of low pressure is all about that low. In terms of where it positions itself, is going to be critical in terms of what type of weather we get. I do think we are going to see a mixture of pretty much heat, sunshine, but also some very lively thunderstorms as well, especially when you've got that trigger very close by, very warm, juicy air at low levels. You've got a lot of potential for lively weather across many parts of the UK, particularly western areas, but not exclusively. Let me see here what else I can show. So obviously that eruption of Fuego in Guatemala. Check this out, by the way. .42 concurrent viewers at the moment. Massive thank you for tuning in to today's live stream. And we're obviously discussing all things global, as is always the case each and every Sunday. I thought there was a bigger actual explosion off this, by the way, but it doesn't appear to be. So yeah, that was a wee bit of a disappointment, wasn't it? There was a video that I seen and it showed a wee bit more impressive stuff. Aye, check this out here. This is Etna. That would be pretty cool to see, actually, I must admit. I know it has a negative side to it, obviously, as well, but nevertheless, I would be curious to see that. Flash flooding in Hunan in China. This is from, I think it's Jim Yang. Woohoo. So woohoo, Wuhan as well. Seeing major flooding in parts of south and eastern China. This is a Yuran city in India. Albeit the overall widespread thunderstorm activity has been less in recent times, but it still doesn't mean that we can't get pop-up thunderstorms, especially with the upper 30, low 40 degree heat. So that is that. Let me just see here what else I can show. And we'll move on to some of the extremes that are taking place around the world. In fact, let's do that. This is actually Weather Monitor on Twitter. So I showed you Volcanic a second ago. This is Weather Monitor. This is from the United States. Wichita fire crews carried out water rescues this afternoon. This was back on the 3rd of June, by the way. Flash flooding, a lot of thunderstorms. I think St. Louis has had multiple tornado hits this year, so it seems to be a kind of focal point for severe weather and tornadic activity. This was the 3rd of June again, Kansas, the Wichita area of Kansas.
Big trucks that can go through on Harry. As far as all of us concerned.
So flash flooding in that parking lot. There, let me just see. Again, Wichita tornado activity. This is in Western Australia near Franklin River. So that's parts of the Franklin River area of Western Australia. Back on the 3rd of June. Massive hail, supercells in the Slovenia area. Remember I was talking about that heat in the east, cooler in the west of Europe here. That area of low pressure north of the UK, driving in fresher Atlantic air. That then moved into the western side of the continent, bumped up against the hot, humid air across Central and Eastern Europe. Thunderstorms blew up in between that with enhanced lift, and this was the scenes from Slovenia, a massive thunderstorm in that area. And look at the size of that hail. That is huge, isn't it? So yeah, it doesn't always be the United States that's home to some very large hail. We can even get it over our continent as well. This is a scene from Nigeria back on the 4th of June. Sorry, that's a little bit loud, isn't it? So that's the scenes from Nigeria. This is Guatemala. So again, thunderstorm activity here. So quite a lot of nasty thunderstorms over that Central America region in recent times. Let us see here what else. This was in Accra in Ghana on the morning of the 4th of June. So again, heavy thunderstorms creating flash floods.
Kaneshi Market Center.
Good afternoon to Sink Splint. So we've got a near full team of moderators tuning in. We've got Lindsay, Paul James and Sink Splint. Massive thank you to yourselves for monitoring today's live. It is greatly appreciated, of course. Let me see here. Again, that's Nigeria. Let me see here if there's anything else that I can show. This was in the Santa Maria del Oro region of Mexico. Again, nasty floods. Yeah, there certainly is, Paul. Lots of extreme weather across the world at the moment. And that is the whole point in this live stream each and every Sunday, is to look globally, see what's going on around the world, because really there's not many channels, I don't think, out there that do these global viewpoints of weather, extreme weather across the world. That is certainly something that I take pride in, is the fact that we're doing something a little bit different compared to other weather channels. So yeah, trying to cover everything as best I can. Let me see here. Again, volcano, earthquake. I keep saying volcano, earthquake. That's 6.5 in Chile. Is quite widespread on social media, showing the damages that have been caused due to that. This is in the Philippines, by the way. So again, remember the MGO is in this part of the world as well. Sink saying, sorry, a little bit late. No problem at all, Sink. You're welcome anytime, and obviously if you do happen to miss the stream, you can check out back at your leisure as well. This was Fiego in Guatemala. So flash floods we're seeing in Guatemala, but also big volcanic eruptions. Check this out, by the way. Look at this. I'll go back to the start. It's quite spectacular. This was actually the imagery that I thought I was showing a little earlier, and it wasn't. Wow. Incredible. Isn't nature just an incredible thing? Obviously, it provides all sorts of danger to mankind, and obviously all the wildlife out there as well. But at the same time, we have to look at the power of nature in all. This is Indonesia as well, by the way. Again, a consequence of the MJO being active in this region of the world, whether it be Indonesia, parts of Thailand, we've seen it, Malaysia, and up into the Philippines as well. We've been seeing some flash flood events, and then of course we get these fronts that they develop over China at this time of the year, can drop a tremendous amount of rainfall in a very short space of time. This is Changsha in China. So that is the Changsha area of China. Let me see here. What else? Again, this is Maharashtra in India. Big floods here. So let me just skip through. This is El Salvador. This was only 11 hours ago. This was posted, by the way. Again, Central America, big thunderstorms. And this is going to become more of a thing, I think, towards the middle portions of the month as that MJO moves into the area. So Guatemala, El Salvador, and let's just go back to that MJO chart here. So again, to reorient, to basically show you where we are talking about here, this is the greens represent lift, upward motion within the atmosphere. The oranges represent sinking motion. Now, if we play through this loop, this is obviously the Pacific we're looking at. We've got the Asia, Africa, Australia's down here. We've got the maritime continent or Indonesia. So obviously we've got the greens over this part of the world at the moment, meaning that we've got enhanced lift, greater potential for showers, thunderstorms. Obviously you've got a very warm and moist environment anyway, but this kind of creates that little bit of a cattle prod to the atmosphere. It gives it more, oomph, more kick to generate these storms. But this is the Central America region here. Between South America and North America, we've got Central America, Mexico, you've got Belize, Nicaragua, Guatemala, El Salvador, Costa Rica. We've got enhanced lift moving into this area. Look at this here. By the time we reach Friday the 13th of June, so next Friday, very strong upward motion over this part of the world. So we're going to see more in the way of thunderstorm activity, flash flood, but also the chance of seeing more development both in the East Pacific as well as the western portion of the Atlantic Basin. This is why I think that we're going to see activity start to ramp up in this part of the world going into the middle portions of June. So the greatest concentration of lift is going to be focused over the Americas. We've also still got some upward motion over the maritime continent here, Southeast Asia, Indonesia, the Philippines as well. So we've got an area here where we can start to see, or continue to see, enhanced lift within the atmosphere. Let's have a very quick look, by the way, at the rainfall anomalies globally over the next wee while. So let's have a look at the GFS, and so this is the GFS ensemble, but let's have a look and see what rainfall anomalies are looking like over the next 7 days. So wetter versus drier than average. We do have central and northern India drier than average, with the south being wetter than average. The west coast of India looking very dry compared to average. Much of equatorial Africa, I may add, looks average to slightly drier than average. We've got a little bit of a mixture of both wetter versus drier than average. Down towards around the equator, over the Cameroon area, we've got some heavy rainfall here, one of the wettest parts of the world, obviously. But it looks as if it's going to be wetter than average over that west equatorial Africa region. Far south of Africa as well, we've got wetter than average conditions here. It looks as if we've got a streak coming in off the southern portion of the Indian Ocean. So we've got weather systems that are probably going to affect South Africa over the next 7 days. And we've also got wetter than average across parts of central and eastern Indonesia in particular. Parts of the Philippines has got wet, very wet written all over it as well. The Far East Pacific, look at this here, wetter than average here. And then into the far northwest of South America, the southern Caribbean, we're seeing wetter than average conditions here. Florida, drier than average. The southern United States, wetter than average. Looking at the South America, it looks like we've got a little bit of wetter than average through the Brazilian highlands, for example, but the majority of Brazil, with the exceptions of the Amazon basin, we've got slightly wetter conditions here. But generally at this time of the year, you've got the intertropical convergence zone down closer to the equator. Again, further north, you've got water temperatures that are too cool for any sort of tropical development. And also We've got a lot of dusty air as well. Continue to play through this. You can see here how India turns a little bit wetter than average across the northwest or northeast, of the country, along the Himalayan foothills as well. Indonesia still wetter than average. But look at this here. Remember, as the MJO moves into the Central America region, we're starting to see wetter conditions northern Caribbean and into the Gulf of Mexico. That could be very interesting. This is the period 17th through the 24th of June, by the way. You can see here firmly drier than average across the UK and Ireland. That's interesting. So it looks as if we're turning wetter across the western portion of the Atlantic Basin, Far East Pacific, in association with that MJO passing through. But we're starting to see with the high moving west over the European continent, we're going to start to turn drier in the west of Europe here, which is good news. In terms of temperature anomaly, let's have a very quick look at that upcoming 5-day period. So this is how it's looking. Most of Russia is warmer than average, if you notice. Western China looking very warm. The far north and the east warmer than average. India warmer than average. Parts of far western India, into the southeast corner of Pakistan below average. Iran is actually below average. Turkmenistan, Afghanistan looking slightly cooler than average. We've got the southern portions of Europe, North Africa warmer than average. Look at Australia. It's looking fairly cold compared to average over the next 7 days, or 5 days, should I say. Far southern Brazil into Paraguay and Uruguay firmly below average here. And the central and eastern United States staying cooler than average with the exception of the east coast. Very warm. We're starting to see heat wave conditions building into the western portion of the United States, cooler than average across Alaska. So that cool June theme continues, cooler than average across Greenland as well. It looks as if Antarctica is firmly warmer than average. So, extreme temperatures around the world. Another great handle on Twitter to follow, talking about the extremes of temperature. And you can see here again Gabon in Africa, just below Cameroon and Equatorial Guinea, seeing record-breaking heat. Gabon, hottest June night in history. Seeing a lot of all-time heat records for overnight periods falling in recent times as well, which is quite interesting. So again, minimum temperature is 26.9 at Port Gentil. I think that is interesting one here, by the way. Germany, May 2025 ends a 23 consecutive months at or above average in terms of temperature anomaly here. It finished off at minus 0.2 Celsius, so rounded up at average. But a 23 consecutive months of above average has ended in May 2025 for Germany. I thought that was quite interesting, actually. Moving on then, and exceptional heat across parts of the Pacific Islands. New Caledonia, for example. Indonesia has been continuing to see record heat day after day. But Vietnam, the Philippines, minimum temperatures. Vietnam broke its hottest night in history for the nation of Vietnam, a minimum of 30.3. Philippines as well, masked bait at 28.5 for a minimum temperature here. Let me just see here. Again, minimum temperatures 29, 30 Celsius. Singapore, Malaysia, Thailand, Vietnam, Hong Kong. Record warm nighttime temperatures in recent times. Australia, record heat across some places. This is going back to the 3rd of June, of course. Let me just see here. Alaska, this was an interesting one. Cold start to summer in Alaska. June started very cold in Alaska with even a couple of records. 25 Fahrenheit, dead horse, was tied for the lowest June maximum temperature. Imagine that, 25 Fahrenheit. That's like what, minus 3 Celsius for a maximum in June. So that ties the dead horse record for the coldest day on record for June. 27 in another location. Fun fact, the place that it was formerly known as Barrow has been above freezing one day so far this year, and that was January 24th. So temperatures remaining below freezing on that north coast of Alaska all the way into the month of June, with one day being above freezing, and that was back in the middle of winter, which is quite interesting when you think about that. Let me just see here, anything else that I can show. Again, it's all about the record warm overnight temperatures. Big contrasts across Europe actually in recent times. Below average across UK and Ireland, firmly warmer than average across the majority of mainland Europe. Just see here, kind of realising that we're running out of time as well. I'm trying to think if there was anything specific that I wanted to show you. But be sure to stay tuned to the European Outlook. Obviously, it's all about this building warmth, the thunderstorm potential as we move through the upcoming work week. So I want you to stay tuned if you can. Hit that subscribe button and hit the notification bell as well so you don't miss any uploads this upcoming week. We could see 30s, by the way, this week. And that was highlighted back in the summer forecast on the 25th of May, that we have an opportunity for a couple of 30-degree attempts in June. And it looks as if that is going to be the case as we move into the upcoming week. Record heat, 46 degrees in parts of Mexico. We've seen some really hot conditions across the Caribbean in recent times. More in the way of sunshine, lack of cloud cover. Obviously, you get a lot of strong incoming solar radiation. This was a tweet here 3 hours ago from Maximiliano. Extreme temperature around the world. Extreme heat across parts of China, up to 45.5 in Tucson today. So that was earlier on today. Let's finish off by quickly looking at the European weather through the next wee while. So area of low pressure at the moment here dominating Central Europe. You can see here more systems moving across Ireland and England and Wales in particular. Dusty air across the north of the UK with that flow coming in off the Atlantic, dragging that Canadian wildfire smoke all the way in. But let's have a quick look at the European model here. We'll look and zoom out, and I'll show you here. So this is obviously the overview. Precip cloud, temperature and pressure. We've got that westerly flow at the moment. High pressure strong to the south of Europe. Lower pressure to the north. Westerly flow off the Atlantic. Play through this loop. Again, we're going to start to lose the shower activity over the next couple of days. We're seeing that today compared to yesterday. Big downpours yesterday. A little bit less in the way of that in today. That should be the case through the first half of next week. Then we've got a feature that runs in tomorrow, actually. This is a 15 UTC tomorrow. We've got another weather system moving in, riding that westerly flow. Then it's all eyes on this feature dropping out of the Baffin Straits. Moves towards the UK and Ireland. But you notice with higher pressure at 1024 to the east of the UK over Germany, that acts as a barrier, block, stops that system from moving in. And by this slowing down of momentum, that low then gains some depth out over the Atlantic here, winds up, and it's then dragging warmth out of the south between the high to the east and low to the west. We're dragging in this kind of thundery, warm Spanish plume. Look at the 850s here, and you can see that we've got warmer air lifting north. So that's that 15 Celsius isotherm, by the way, moving into the southeast of the UK. But generally, there's going to be a breakdown that comes with this. That area of low pressure will probably spread some energy in. But look at this here. Even as we move towards next weekend, we've got that warm flow continuing to come up from the south. Then as we move into Saturday, around 12 UTC, according to the ECMWF anyway, that area of low pressure then kind of moves in over the UK and then forces that warm plume to move eastwards over the continent. But you can see here, essentially it opens the door to warmer air coming in, then it moves across the UK, essentially bringing that kind of thundery breakdown. Then as we continue to play through, we've got another attempt at warmth coming in from the south, this time Saturday the 21st, so the following weekend, 2 weekends from now, we've got the models indicating another surge of warmth coming up from the south. So more on this coming up over the next few days in the European Outlook. So I hope you can subscribe to the channel. Like I've said time and time again, it doesn't cost you a single penny. It's free, and I try and provide as unhyped, unbiased and level-headed opinion as possible. So massive thank you to everybody for tuning in. I'm going to round up there because I don't like to run over an hour. Thank you for the donations, Lindsay, to Chris at the Ballard Deeside, Donside Weather. Do greatly appreciate your kind donations and support to the channel. Massive thank you to the moderators as well for moderating the stream today. And yeah, we've got Paul, we've got Frogs Eggs, Matthew, Braemar, Ballard, D-Side, Dodside, Weather. We've got who else have we got here? Sing Splint. We've got Lindsay. We've got Benny Jones. We have got JC as well tuning in. Good afternoon to yourself. Let me see here. I don't want to forget anybody before I go. So yeah, and David Vogan down in Kirkintilloch, Paul Farwell as well. Thank you very much for tuning in, and Callum Snowball. Hope you have a wonderful rest of your Sunday and weekend. I'll be back again the same time next Sunday with the live stream. But before then, there will be a full week's European outlook to look forward to as well. Interesting weather coming up. So stick it right here on this channel and hit that subscribe button. Bye for now, everybody. Bye-bye.